I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 89. We're from the comic book store Alter Ego Comics. We love comics. We read a bunch of comics all the time. And every week we come and tell you what we think you should be reading, what we like, and some other fun stuff. So we're going to add something new to the mix this week. We're dropping comic news for the time being because there's really stuff that ships every week that isn't a monthly comic, and that's primarily what we focus on when we do our top 5 and we talk about this week's best bets. But this week there were some great collected editions that came out and things that we think should be on your radar. So we'll start things off with Alien, the Illustrated Story, which is written by Archie Goodwin with artwork by Walt Simonson. And this was originally published by Heavy Metal Magazine back in 1979 and is based on the original screenplay for Alien. So what you end up with, beside the fact that you've got a story written by one of the best writers/editors ever in comics, and some great artwork by Walt Simonson, but you've got scenes in this comic that were not in the film because they were working off the original screenplay and not what they actually shot. So the story is 99% the same, but there are some scenes in the comic that you didn't see in the movie. And this has been out of print for years, so it's great that this is finally back in print. They actually reproduced it from Walt Simonson's original colored pages. This guy's a genius. I mean, he kept all of his original artwork. We got the Walt Simonson artist edition of Thor a couple of years ago from IDW, where he had all of his original art pages for one of his great runs on Thor. And now we've got his Alien Illustrated Story. And actually next month there is an oversized collector's edition, similar to an artist edition, of this same thing, which I ordered, signed by Walt Simonson. So if you still want that, we might be able to get it for you. But right now, we have the Illustrated Story, and it's awesome. If you're an Alien fan, this story was published before Dark Horse Comics even existed, and Dark Horse has had the Alien license for many, many years. So it's really cool, and we think you will like it.
Also, something that may have flown under the radar came out last week that you should know about is the Judas Coin. This is a hardcover original graphic novel, also involving Walt Simonson. It's Walt Simonson week here at Alter Ego Comics. It's written and drawn by Walt Simonson, and basically it follows the story of one of Judas Iscariot's 30 pieces of silver as it trickles down through the ages and sees how it affects the people that it comes into contact with. Now, aside from dealing with historical stuff, it also interacts with the DC universe. Now, you've got Batlash and Batman and Two-Face and Captain Fear and the Viking Prince. So it's a very cool kind of trickle-down tale going through the history of the DC universe. It's just super cool, and it's done by one of the all-time greats in comic art, and it is available now.
Who's it done by?
Walt Simonson.
Awesome. All right, let's get on to last week's top 5. And we neglected to mention in our last episode, one of the books we were really looking forward to this week was Batman number 0. I just overlooked it because there were a lot of Bat books on my invoice, and I missed it. But we're not missing it this week because it is one of our top 5. It's written by Scott Snyder with artwork by Greg Capullo, and tells a pre-New 52 story of Bruce Wayne in his first year as Batman. In fact, at this point, I don't think he has the costume yet.
He doesn't appear to have the costume.
He's back from his travels. He
hasn't found the symbol yet because he has batarangs, but they're not batarangs; they're just boomerang-looking things. So
it's very cool to see this updated version. I don't want to say alternate version, but we're all very familiar with Bruce Wayne's origin. So it's a tough job for somebody like Scott Snyder to come up with something new and different and fresh, and he absolutely pulls it off. And of course, Capullo's artwork is outstanding. You get some great interaction between Bruce and Alfred, and also between Bruce and Lieutenant Gordon, or is it Captain Gordon?
I think it's Lieutenant.
That Gordon guy with the trench coat and the
still
mustache.
Has red hair.
If you've been reading the Batman series, it's a ton of fun. If you haven't, it's also very accessible. That's one of the great things about these DC Zero issues is they are really accessible to new readers. So if you, for some reason, missed the beginning of the New 52 a year ago, you can pick up these Zero issues and hit the ground running. Also, we get a backup story by James Tynion IV and Jonathan Glapion. I may have typed that wrong. I don't know. I think that's his name. But the backup story was as cool as the lead story. And Tynion is the guy who is writing Talon. So he's a former student of Scott Snyder's. Scott Snyder has been working with him and helping him on plots and that sort of thing. But he wrote this backup, which examines the three Robins, Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake in the early days of Batman. There is a bat signal, and that's kind of what catches all of their eye. It's like one night in Gotham where you see a bat signal, and then we cut to, in addition to three Robins, Barbara Gordon and Commissioner Gordon. And just the dialogue is great. You see, it's really the first time we've seen these characters, pre-New 52, how they kind of evolved and what the bat symbol, what Batman meant to them before they were even part of the Bat family. Just loved it. It was great.
Oh, super great. Almost better than the issue, because it's like the Zero issue is the Zero, this and also the Zero issue of Detective last week are the Zero issues of Batman. What happened to Batman. This is sort of the birth of the Bat family, and it almost makes the Bat Signal a character in the story, and I just love the crap out of it. Also new last week, the Transformers More Than Meets the Eye annual, written by James Roberts with art by Jimbo Salgado. Jimbo. J-Dog. It's no secret I've loved every issue of Transformers Meet the Eye, and I've also More Than Meets the Eye. And I've also really enjoyed Last Stand of the Wreckers, which was sort of a semi-prequel written by the same writer. This is just a great annual. You don't need to really know anything about what's been going on to pick it up and enjoy it. You don't need to know anything about Transformers. It might help a little, but you don't need to. And it's just such an eclectic mix. You've got these little character studies, little quiet moments between these different characters. You've got it's basically almost a treatise on religion in the Transformers universe. You've got a number of different characters explaining within the context of other story or of larger interaction, how they feel about things. You've got the Doctor, who's an atheist. You've got people who believe the more traditional Cybertronian theology. You've got people who are more spiritual Cybertronians, and it's just done so well. And it's actually intercut with each little segment or vignette is led by a quote, and you'll recognize almost all of them as famous quotes about religion from actual theologians in our world, but they've all been given a Cybertronian twist, taking out references to God and replacing it with Allspark or various other Cybertronian mythology. And again, I'm not a Transformers fan. I know what none of those words mean, but the emotion behind it, the interaction, the playfulness, it's just such a great book. It just awesome. Start the counter again.
No, we're not. We're not going down that road again.
Lugubrious.
Giggity? Is that
Giggity. That
Giggity
is the word
this week. Next up is Green Lantern Corps number 0 by Peter Tomasi and Fernando Pasarin. I have not been reading Green Lantern Corps, but what attracted me to this issue was Guy Gardner. He's very attractive. Yeah. Actually, I've been trying to read a lot of the Zero issues because I've fallen off on some of the DC titles, and this is an opportunity to get back on board. But Guy Gardner as a character was always around when I was reading comics growing up. First as a member of the Green Lantern Corps, and then still as a member of the Corps, but a member of the Justice League. And he was just a jerk, It's the guy that nobody really liked, but he was around. And it was awesome in that early Justice League issue after Crisis, where Batman just punches Guy Gardner in the face, and it was huge at the time. So I wanted to see what this new origin. Actually, I didn't even know what Guy Gardner's origin was, so I wanted to check this out, and I was not disappointed at all. It turns out that he's from a family of police officers, and for one reason or another, he's been kind of disgraced as an officer and has a falling out with his father. And you find out what drives him as a human being and why he is chosen to be a member of the Green Lantern Corps. And it's bookended by a flashback sequence of him as a trainee, as a Green Lantern Corps trainee. Just a lot of good stuff. It was fun is not the right word because it's not a fun book. It's a very serious book, but a good peek inside the life of Guy Gardner. So if you're a fan, I would definitely check it out. Even if you're not, it's just a really good story.
Also new last week, this is one of the Zero issues that's actually launching a new series. It's Team 7, written by Justin Jordan with art by Jesus Marino. And Team 7 is sort of the government's response to the immersion of metahumans. This issue takes place roughly contemporaneously with the start of the Justice League and the start of the books that were 5 years before the New 52. So roughly around the time of the birth of Batman, sort of time Superman's being active. And the government has decided that all these people running around with the power of an atomic bomb may be some sort of a threat or a problem. So they get together a team compiled of the best. And this issue is primarily that. It's putting together the team, seeing all these different disparate personalities being collected. And they do an excellent job of, each character only gets a couple pages to be introduced and join the team. And they do a great job of giving just little personality moments, little character moments, so you kind of get who they are, even the ones that are relatively new to me that I didn't actually know. But on the team, we've got Amanda Waller, we've got Deathstroke, although he's not actually in Deathstroke costume, Slade Wilson. We've got Alex Fairchild, which is Fairchild from, I was going to say from Gen 13, but from Superboy in the current continuity, and from Ravagers, would be her father, I believe. And we've got a whole bunch of other people. Cole Cash, who is Grifter. Those are all the named ones?
Well, and the two that are recruiting everybody, it's
okay.
Dinah Lance, Black Canary, and her
It's
fiance.
actually Dinah...
It's Dinah Drake. Dinah Drake.
Yeah.
And
related to Tim Drake?
What's-his-face? Lance. So at some point, at least in the past...
At some point, she's going to kill him.
Well, no, at the past, they got married. And
well, yeah, that's why her name's Dinah Lance. But in Birds of Prey, she's on the run, allegedly, for killing her husband. So
well, there you go.
So who knows what might happen next.
I would know that if I paid more attention.
But that's what they've said. Who knows what the actual truth is. But Team 7 was a lot of fun. It's a great kind of cool book where you see all these different personalities interacting. The first issue was solid, and I think it's a great companion if you've been reading Amanda Waller's stuff in Suicide Squad. If you enjoy Suicide Squad, very similar in tone, a team of the different people that have the same motivation, but not necessarily, or the same goal, but not necessarily the same motivations. So Team 7, definitely worth a look.
And my pick of the week this week is Avengers vs. X-Men number 11 by Brian Michael Bendis and Olivier Coipel. I'm sorry. Can't pronounce names. I'm sorry. But we've talked about this before. Avengers vs. X-Men has been kind of hit or miss. It started out very strong and then kind of lost some steam. And this is the issue with the payoff. This is the second to the last issue, and we see the death of a character. And I won't spoil it for you, although I'm sure if you do a search online, you can find it very easily. In fact, one of the New York newspapers spoiled it in their headline the day that the book came out. But it's a very emotional story. If you've been reading Marvel for a while, if you have any connection to the X-Men or the Avengers, the different characters, it's just filled with emotion. And it's another thing that Bendis does really well. I mean, he writes, we've mentioned numerous times that Bendis writes great dialogue. And this book might take a couple readings to really get the right voice down for how to read it. Because it's not just like a straight read. You have to kind of interpret the emotion between the characters to get the most out of it. But it was the first book that I read when they came in, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I felt, again, like this was the payoff to dealing with about 3 or 4 issues. We were kind of treading water with Avengers versus X-Men, and now there's some forward momentum again. And it makes me even more excited for Bendis's all-new X-Men, which is the time-traveling X-Men team from the past. The original 5 X-Men from the 60s travel to the present, and they find out the state of the world, and they say, this isn't right, we have to stay, we have to contribute. And also Uncanny Avengers by Rick Remender. So both of those books are going to be direct spin-offs from what happens with Avengers vs. X-Men, especially this issue. So check it out. And that's that. All right. Dramatic pause. Let's go on to this week's best bets. We've got Daredevil number 18, and this is being billed as the biggest Daredevil story yet. That's all I've got. It's Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. I will absolutely read it, and hopefully we'll love it, but it's the biggest Daredevil story yet, so you know. Justice League number 0 comes out this week, and this is a Shazam origin story written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank, and we also get the origin of Pandora sowing the seeds of Trinity War, which, just a quick mention, you should pick up Phantom Stranger number 0 to see the origin of the Phantom Stranger, and that is also sowing the seeds of the Trinity War. There's seeds everywhere.
And Pandora's in there too a little bit, maybe.
Pandora's in there a little bit, yeah. Nightwing number 0 gives us the new 52 origin of Dick Grayson, and all these redone origins are really interesting to me because I didn't read the original origins of these characters because I was not born yet. And so I'm loving these 0 issues. If you're a Star Trek fan, especially The Next Generation, you want to check out Star Trek The Next Generation Hive #1. It is a new miniseries which is being billed as the final chapter of the Borg saga, and it's actually written by Brannon Braga, who was one of the key writers on the television show. And finally, we've got Spider-Man #5, and we just can't wait to get our hands on this final issue of the Universe Crossing storyline by Brian Bendis and Sarah Pichelli. How does Peter Parker get home? What does he do with the knowledge of knowing that there's another universe out there with Miles Morales? Will they cross over again at some point? I don't know, but I can't wait to read it. So that's what we're looking forward to this week.
All right. Also, something I'm looking forward to this week. We've started a new program called Tabletop Thursdays, where we have demos in the store from 6 to 8 on Thursday night. And this coming Thursday, we will be demoing a little game called Kill Dr. Lucky. This is one of our all-time best-selling games at Alter Ego Comics. It's the family game of Murder in the Dark, kind of a twist on Clue. And if you want to check it out, it is going to be on hand and on tap from 6 to 8 on Thursday night.
Josh will teach you how to play. There's no charge to come down and learn how to play and actually play. I mean, and we're not just showing you how to play. We actually play a game. So you get to try it before you buy it. It's just a great game. As he said, it's one of our best-selling board games, and it's a lot of fun. That is it. Oh, you know what? We did have a question that I forgot to answer. The question was, what canceled Marvel or DC series in the past would you like to see back? And my initial thought was the most recent Moon Knight series by Brian Michael Bendis, but actually books are canceled for a reason. They're usually canceled because they're not selling well enough, or they might not be good enough, or it might be a combination of both. But there's so much cool stuff out now that there really is nothing that I'm thinking of that I really want to see back because I'm loving so much of what's out now.
Oh yeah, and I mean,
it's a tough question.
The easy answer is all of us have seen enough science fiction to know that bringing something back from the dead is never a good idea. It's never going to be the same as it was. If I had to give an answer in recent memory, I would love to see more Incredible Hercules. Before it was retitled as Herc or re-released as Herc, when it was still Incredible Hercules and Amadeus Cho, that was a book that I loved that got canceled. But yeah, there's plenty of good new stuff out now, and if it did come back, there's no way to know that it would be as good as it was.
So that was kind of a short answer to the question since we're running out of time, but thank you for the question. And keep the questions coming in the comments below, and we'll be sure to get to them in time. As always, we appreciate you guys watching, and we will see you soon at Alter Ego Comics.